I really want to build wholesome, strong families and help them thrive. It's so important to me because I grew up in a wonderful, functional family, and I see such breakdown that I at least know what it looks like, and I can try to help them.
Well, let's talk about the 52 weekly devotions for busy families book. The devotional format has become quite popular. I think there are a number of reasons for that. When you set out to do a devotional book, you're obviously taking messages, short messages, and you're really trying to get a central theme across in a very short period of time. So what are the keys you found to be effective as far as writing that sort of book?
Well, in particular for families, you first have to understand the family and know they're super busy. So I want to put little modules in each one where they can do one thing at a time and not have to read through everything. Therefore, the story is a little separate from the activities, from the chat questions, and other components of each devotional. And that way they can pick up and do one part on a day when they have time for it.
Well, obviously, when you're looking at biblical truth, there are great ways, great tools that you have at your disposal in order to really reinforce that truth. You talked about activities that go along with this. Talk about how you're able to really enhance the learning process.
Right. Well, I love to do hands-on activities where you can actually do something. So if I'm going to teach the golden rule to my children, maybe do something on fairness, I might first have them actually paint a ruler gold and write with a marker that golden rule on there so they have something visual to look at and say, this is God's real marker. He doesn't measure us by how tall we are. This is only a foot long. He measures your heart. He measures your actions. And he really measures, are you doing what he says of do unto others as you want them to do unto you?
Well, I want you to take us back. I've been made aware that you have two children that are rocket scientists.
Yes.
So when you hear the phrase, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, that probably has special meaning for you.
Yeah, when they were in school and studying that, I thought, oh, nobody's going to need them for a job because they don't need a rocket scientist. But it does. It makes me think back to all the things we did with them and when they were young, the challenges of such a bright minds and wanting to develop the critical thinking, which I found we did through devotions. But I can remember James when we were reading about yeast and heaven, and he said, wait a minute, didn't we read about yeast and the Pharisees? That wasn't so good. And I said, why don't we do some experiments? And we did experiments to see how yeast is good for bread, but not so good for alcohol making. And it gave him that difference, and we would just delve into explaining or taking up that challenge when they asked us a question.
I want to zero in on that phrase, critical thinking, because obviously it's important that we not only share spiritual truth with our children and families, but also it's important that they think critically so that they can make decisions relative to their own faith. And you've touched on it already, but what do you see as some of the important ingredients to really help to stimulate critical thinking, especially about spiritual content?
I think that's where you have to go into discussions, and you do that with a chat prompt is what I call it. So if your week, say the one we were talking about, is on fairness, then you may pick up some other verses or key things that happen in the Bible and say, do you think that was fair? Do you think what Jesus said to a Pharisee was fair? Do you think the way he treated this person was fair? And then talk about what does fairness really mean to God? You know, there's a story with there, so I'll start with that sometimes. In fairness, the story is when my older son Michael said, hey, you know, Mom, you spend a lot more money on dance lessons than you do on soccer for me. How about that's not so fair? And I said, oh, all right, I can do something to make it fair. And he says, great, I have ways to spend the money. I said, no, you can take dance lessons. He was like, what? And I said, well, think about it. The town has a soccer team, and you get to do soccer much cheaper because of that. They don't have a dance program, so we have to pay for private lessons, but we're giving you each just what you want. That's what's fair. We're not counting the pennies. And I said, you know, that's where Jesus looked at this poor woman who gave 2 cents. Was that fair or equal to what the other people gave? No, but God saw her heart, and that's what he looks at for us.
So how did that go over?
He was so funny about that. He said, oh, all right, I get it, Mom.
Good,
and he was
good.
much
You did
better
good.
with it. Yes, he did. But he was willing to debate this and talk about it a little bit and then realize that we weren't counting fair the same way he first thought of it.